Do you like fairy tales? Are you a shut-in that's never left your house in months? Does your mother also happen to be your sister? If you answered yes to any of these questions, then The Liar Princess and the Blind Prince might be the game for you!
On all levels except physical, I am a wolf.
The Liar Princess and the Blind Prince is a puzzle adventure game. No, scratch that. The Liar Princess and the Blind Prince is a visual novel by Nippon Ichi Software available on the Vita, PS4, and Nintendo Switch. They're best known for the Disgaea franchise, but aside from that, their games are either a moderate success, or they're absolute flops that barely break even because of the game's art style. And that's not to say that this game is entirely bad, per se, but I will admit that this game was an easy mark for me. Looking at the trailers, there were 3 things I was immediately sold on. I liked the art direction, I liked its music, and I like Little Mermaid style stories, the Hans Christian Andersen one. The Disney one's alright. But then here's the important question. Was this game worth spending $20 on? The game is pretty short if you're only going from point A to point B. Probably 3.5 hours, I would say. 2 more if you're gonna go for the collectibles, and then over 2 hours of that is just story. Once upon a time, there was a monstrous wolf with a beautiful singing voice. Every night, she sang atop a tall cliff, and every night, a young prince would rest at the foot of that cliff to listen to her sing. The wolf grew to enjoy his company and his rousing applause, but she was afraid that if he ever found out that she were a wolf, he'd never return. To nobody's surprise, the prince does one day climb to the top of that cliff, only to have his eyes clawed out by the wolf. But don't worry, it was an accident, so it's okay. The wolf is overcome with guilt after she finds the prince locked away for being physically impaired. You know, because that's always stopped royalty before. Afraid of terrifying the prince any further, the wolf digs her grave just a little deeper and lies to him, saying that she is in fact a princess here to help fix his eyes. The game begins proper after the wolf forms a pact with a forest witch. In exchange for his singing voice, and with a few stipulations, she may take the form of a human princess. As far as gameplay goes, you're looking at an adventure game that uses platforming to navigate a 2D landscape. Your objective is to escort the prince to the end of every stage by solving mostly physics-based puzzles. They're easy enough to solve. The issue with the gameplay lies in its bug-ridden mechanics. Here's a few that I found, just to give you an idea of what I mean. Hitboxes on elevator platforms are way larger than they appear. Mushrooms will cushion your fall, but momentum is your enemy. Don't overshoot your target. You can trap yourself into gay baby jail. On a ton of occasions, I noticed that the prince outright lets go of your hand on uneven footing. The best way I can think to put it is that it feels like an entry for some 3-month-long game jam. It's like they didn't have time to test the game at all. One of the best stages in the game was entirely optional. But enough negatives. Let's move on to the good bits of the game. And then hit some more negatives. The Liar Princess is heavily based around a storybook motif. It's basically a storybook. Designs for characters and settings are either cute and quirky or fantastical and mysterious. It's amazingly pleasing to the eye. It's so good that I actually ran through the game 100% just so I can view all the concept art. In a similar vein, the music is average. There's a few good takeaways. I like the witch's theme. I really like the credits theme, but they used that one for the trailer. I didn't need to buy the game to listen to it. It was pretty obvious from the start that we were looking at a take on The Little Mermaid. I'm gonna say this right now, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. It's been a long time since it got some attention, and it's about time for a fresh take on it. The wolf, or I guess the princess now, only ever loses her singing voice, not her regular speaking voice. That sort of caught me off guard. I mean, you can usually get a basic idea for how someone sings just by their speaking voice. The writer makes it clear to the player that the princess is operating on her inhibitions. She doesn't want the prince to know that she's a monster, so she lies. She's afraid of fire, so she lies. The inner conflict between the 2 main characters is based entirely around these lies instead of this general struggle to communicate like with Little Mermaid. But here's the kicker. The prince isn't a selfish prick like in The Little Mermaid. He goes out of his way to help those he thinks are lower than him, or rather, he asks the princess to help him help them. Homeboy snuck away in the middle of the night every night to a forest that was described as dark and sinister. Why would he ever be surprised by the princess being a monster? To put it into perspective, the prince in The Little Mermaid would make the mermaid sleep at the foot of his bedroom instead of one of the many, many rooms in his palace. I don't like the argument that this is a kid's game or a children's story. It really isn't. Andersen's fairy tales resonated with both children and adults, and I don't think kids care about what moe means. The story is pretty vague about just what the prince means to the princess. There's a ton of wording that it suggests it's a friendship rather than any romantic fixation. I honestly wouldn't be surprised, given how actual otaku behave with this kind of stuff. But that's just like more of an offhand comment than any actual criticism of the game. So then, was it worth the purchase? Not really. I wanted more engaging gameplay, and if not that, I wanted a story that wasn't so full of weak conflicts. It wasn't a fulfilling adventure game, and it wasn't a fulfilling visual novel. If the game were $10, I could at least excuse this kind of quality. When someone puts their Game Jam entry up for sale, you're usually looking at a game worth 5 to 10 USD. This game is Game Jam quality. Now if anything, I'd say wait for a sale and get it for the PS4. The Nintendo eShop doesn't do sales. If you're interested in seeing more of my stuff, you can find me on datstream.net, one of those community streaming sites that embeds from Twitch or Mixer. Or you can follow me on my Twitter. I've been busy working on a video game, but I do try to visit it frequently.